Hey everyone, it's Arzy. I had a little message I wanted to say. If you want to, you can skip to this timestamp right here. It should take you straight to the beginning of the video. But I wanted to say that I appreciate all of you so very much. I've seen that we've had a huge growth from the Pokemon video. Right now, as I'm recording this little intro, it's about 850 or over, which is fantastic. And I cannot tell you how much I appreciate each and every one of you for taking time to watch the video. I've looked over the videos and I appreciate all the advice, whether it be positive, negative, any kind of critiques, all that stuff. It's all appreciated. Thank you very much. I hope that I can continue to make awesome content for you all, and I hope you continue to enjoy it. Anyway, onto the video. Ace Attorney, created by Shu Takumi, releasing in 2001. This series is nothing short of iconic, having 6 mainline games, 5 spin-offs, a movie, and even stage plays apparently. It is truly one of the best visual novel adventure games of all time, making incredibly fun and exciting stories with interesting twists and fun characters. But with how popular the game is, there is one theory that's had the community divided for some time. Well, today I'd like to look at the insane world of Ace Attorney, and just determine if Ace Attorney is or isn't a satire. Now, I want to preface this in saying I know nothing of law. I don't know anything about the laws. I've never done any kind of law degree or anything like that. So some of the statements I'll be talking about, I'm pulling from sources, but I actually am not sure if that's 100% or not. So please take this with a grain of salt. Now, with Ace Attorney having multiple games, there are also multiple different defense attorneys you can play as depending on the game, with you playing as characters such as Phoenix Wright, Apollo Justice, Phoenix's understudy, his mentor Mia Fey, or Mia's younger sister, Maya, a spiritual medium slash channeler. Heck, in some of the spin-offs, you even play as Phoenix Wright's boyfriend. Rival, Miles Edgeworth. Now, while the games all have different main characters, the aspects and gameplay are very, very similar through multiple games, each of them having maybe an extra mechanic here or there, it just depends. In each game, you are defending a case. Each case is 3 days, split into 2 types of sections, either the investigations or the courtroom trials. During investigations, the player searches the environment, gathering information and evidence, and talking to characters such as their client, witnesses, and police. After enough evidence has been collected, the game moves on to the courtroom trials. In the courtroom trials, the main goal is that you want your client to be not guilty. You'll cross-examine witnesses, aiming to find any lies or any inconsistencies in their testimonies. If you do find an inconsistency, you can show them a piece of evidence, and usually that's when you trigger the iconic line of "Objection!" After you do that, you can press the witness a bit more and kind of see if it brings out more lies or inconsistencies in any of their statements even further. Of course, if you present incorrect evidence or something that doesn't matter to it at all, you just get penalized for it. The case goes back and forth until you either win or you end up bringing out health, exclamation points, or lawyer badges depending on the game, as all those are indicators of the judge's patience or the mistakes you're making. Now, that sounds pretty grounded, right? I mean, outside of a few aspects, it seems kind of like a realistic court case. Well, if you believe that, you are completely wrong, because this shit is insane. Looking into Ace Attorney, there are so many wacky aspects of each court case, it's hilarious. To really show how insane Ace Attorney's world is, I'll explain a few just to give you a little idea. For starters, in multiple cases you have to cross-examine animals. One of them being a parrot, the other being an orca that's suspected of killing a person. Not only is this treated completely seriously, the judge gets pissed off at how the parrot's not responding to him. One of the prosecutors, Diego Armando, or Godot as he becomes after, is poisoned and is in a 5-year coma. The only thing bringing him out is coffee. Mind you, he was in the hospital. The smell of coffee brought him out of a coma, and he becomes so obsessed with it that he literally spawns it infinitely and throws on Phoenix multiple times. Another prosecutor, Franziska von Karma, upon losing a case to Phoenix, whips him unconscious in the middle of the court. They let her bring a whip into the court and let her assault a guy completely. Another one is Maya Fey is the only character to be accused the most in Phoenix Wright. She has been accused in every game that she has ever been in. She is legitimately the highest amount of prosecutions, to the point where it's such a bit in the industry and the community. There's a few others, like Phoenix falling into a river known for drowning for people and coming out with mild injuries. Apollo knocks Phoenix Wright out at one point in his game, and on 2 different occasions, Phoenix Wright had beef with a monkey. So yeah, as much as I'd love to say these games are serious and actually legitimate, there's a bunch of goofy parts in each case. Now that we've kind of got an idea how the games work and how the world of Ace Attorney really is, let's look at the issue that the community has argued back and forth about for quite some time. The big issue being, is Phoenix Wright a satire of the Japanese legal system? To get the full grasp, I will be talking about both sides and giving my opinion at the end, leaving you to really come up to that, as there's not really a clear-cut answer of yes or no, but both sides provide sufficient enough evidence to where I want to talk about it. Now, a lot of the evidence that people put down for how Phoenix Wright is a satire usually falls down to a couple things. Firstly is the court cases themselves. As in Japan, there's a 99.8 conviction rate, according to the 2021 Supreme Court statistic. Now, honestly, as a US citizen, I was like, wow, that's pretty high, but we're probably higher. But no, apparently, as of 2022, the US is sitting at about a 92% conviction rate, although since we have plea bargains and they don't, technically that's under scrutiny, as it could be lower or higher depending, but whatever. But how does this affect the cases themselves? Well, Japan only takes cases to trial that they are fully sure they will win. While that sounds completely normal, like yeah, you don't want to take a losing case to trial, that tends to mean that most cases that have a bit of nuance or are difficult to answer or will take more time are usually thrown into other courts to dodge that entirely. With how high the prosecution rate is, you tend to notice how in certain parts of the game, either the prosecutor or the judge lean very heavily into incremental pieces of evidence, as the judge will tend to lean more to the prosecution just to ensure conviction, as it's come to the courts, so they obviously want to convict. Now, another issue is the police themselves, as you can tell by Detective Gumshoe kind of being a blubbering oaf at times and not really doing his job. And you might be wondering why Detective Gumshoe immediately arrests the first person he sees and declares that they're the perpetrator. This mostly stems from the fact that Japanese police will use very little evidence to convict. As long as they can find something with your name on it or something that could loosely point you to it, they'll use that to try to convict you. These problems become even worse once the person is actually in custody of the police, as Japanese police are known for horrible tactics to get confessions such as intimidation, threats, verbal abuse, and sleep deprivation to get their suspects to do whatever they want. Even in certain situations, they will pit family members against each other to try to get some form of a confession, whether it's truthful or not. And if through all that they can't get a confession, they'll just hold you there till you confess. There are multiple cases where Japanese citizens have been arrested for months, even years, just to obtain a confession. With their ability to deny you bail through multiple means, or just by isolating you from your family, your friends, or even anyone that can possibly help you out of that jail cell. This can be seen with a musician named Yusuke Doi, who was held for 10 months without bail after being arrested on the suspicion of stealing 10,000 yen from a convenience store. He was denied bail 9 times, even though he was eventually acquitted. It completely ruined him, ruining an album and multiple financial losses that set him back. These issues are so prominent that the Japanese have even created different nicknames for the issues, with Enzai being for false accusation, and Hitojichi Shiho meaning hostage justice system. Now, this issue is shown a lot in cases, especially with Maya, as Maya is usually the first one convicted, usually with flimsy evidence such as when her sister is murdered. She is convicted because, hey, she was by her sister's body. There's also a character that has a literal want of revenge on prosecutors after being wrongfully convicted, after being forced to confess and having his life ruined. Now there's a few other theories that people kind of stand out with, like the prosecutors being rich and Phoenix being poor to show the uphill battle of fighting in a case, and that prosecutors will always win and Phoenix won't, therefore they get more money. And reading into the wiki and looking over all the games, this seems pretty consistent. Even though it seemed as a theory, a lot of the stuff seems pretty grounded in the game's lore and the characters themselves. So why wouldn't anybody believe that? Well, that's where we move to the second belief that Phoenix Wright is in fact not a satire. As the biggest point kind of leaning people towards this ideal is the fact that Shu Takumi himself has stated he doesn't know anything about law, as most of the inspirations for cases come from TV dramas, movies, and occasionally the news. But he doesn't actually know law. There's been multiple interviews where he's stated that Ace Attorney was actually supposed to be a detective's game. So when creating a lot of the cases and a lot of the issues, they didn't really plan it to be that way. They were even worried that they were going to be sued by the Bar Association. The games took a more serious point, as Takumi wanted them to be basically a gotcha moment in court. You defend your client, catch the real murderer, and reveal them all in court, and that being the big finale of the case. The game was meant to be a mystery game. It was meant to be something not realistic, something simplistic that even his mom could play, as he states. And of course, with Takumi basing the game mostly off of detective films and law films and just stuff he saw on TV or read, you can kind of tell where that's at. He wasn't writing it with the specific idea of the Japanese legal system in mind. He was writing it with the idea of, oh, I saw this in a movie. They did it, which, I mean, obviously the movie could be based in the Japanese legal system, but hypothetically, there's some over-the-top aspects of that as well. So after taking a look at both sides and both of the theories slash actual evidence, what's there to be said about the validity of either side? Honestly, I think both sides have some really good merit, but I lean more towards the idea that the game is an unintentional parody. I think even though Takumi and his team didn't intend to make the game a serious legal satire or anything like that, I feel that a lot of the media that he used, or maybe some of the novels that he used, had intense satire towards the legal system and therefore got inherited into the game. I mean, there's just certain parts of the game that, even though they're supposed to be hyperbole and joking, they are real issues inside of the court system of Japan and honestly the world. So while he has disavowed that it is a legal satire, I do tend to lean more towards the fact that it's an unintentional satire. But hey, what do you think? Do you think that is an intentional parody, or maybe that it's just all speculation and just coincidences? Either way, my name is Arzi, and I hope you have a wonderful day.